Yesterday was the history, tomorrow is the mystery, and today is the present. Means it is the gift. Hello, good morning, and welcome to yet another episode of our knowledge series. This is lecture third, and in this lecture, let me simplify preamble for you. But before I start, hit the like button, comment if you have any question, doubt, subscribe the channel if you haven't yet, and share the link with your friends and fellow aspirants. Today, we are not discussing the few lines written at the beginning of the Indian Constitution. We are actually entering what? In the philosophy of the Constitution. And why the philosophy lies? The philosophy of the Constitution lies in the preamble. B.R. Ambedkar, the father of Indian Constitution, the architect of Indian Constitution, viewed the Constitution not as a legal document only, but as an instrument. Instrument of what? Instrument of social transformation. Means for him, the Constitution is not a single document. It's not a legal document. It is an instrument of social transformation. He wants to bring through this instrument what? Social transformation. When I say social transformation, he wants to establish a state based on justice, based on equality, based on fraternity, based on unity, based on sovereignty, based on socialism, based on democracy. And this social transformative vision has been captured in the preamble of Indian Constitution. December 9, 1946, the makers of the Indian Constitution started to frame the Constitution. And through this Constitution, they want to achieve some goals, ideals, aspirations, and aims. And the makers of the Constitution want to frame the Constitution, and through this Constitution, they want to achieve certain goals, certain aims, certain aspirations, and certain ideals. And these ideals, goals, aspirations are actually reflected in the preamble. Preamble of what? Preamble of Indian Constitution. So, what do you mean by preamble? When I say preamble, preamble is actually preface of the Constitution. Preamble is the philosophy of the Constitution. Preamble reflects the ideals. Preamble reflects the goals. Preamble reflects the aims that the Constitution makers want to achieve through the Constitution. For example, Constitution makers, or those who framed our Constitution, I mean Constituent Assembly, want to frame the Constitution. Through this Constitution, they want to establish sovereign state. They want to establish democratic India. And this sovereign nature of the state, this democratic nature of the state lies and reflected in the preamble. Constituent Assembly want to establish in India based on justice, social, economic, political. It is reflected in the preamble. Makers of the Constitution want to frame the Constitution, and through this Constitution, they want to achieve what? Secularism. They want to provide freedom of religion. They want to provide freedom of faith. They want to provide freedom of conscience. They want to provide freedom to everyone to practice his religion. And this idea, this vision is already reflected in the preamble of Indian Constitution. Long story short, in the Biruberi Union case 1960, Supreme Court said that preamble is actually what? Preamble constitutes ideals and goals. Preamble reflects ideals and aims. And these ideals and aims have to be achieved through a body of laws, which we commonly call what? Constitution of India. So long story short, what's preamble? Preamble is an introductory part of the Constitution. It is philosophy of the Constitution, and it embodies all the values like justice, like liberty, like fraternity, like dignity, like unity of, like integrity. So there is one thing that you need to keep in mind, that it was actually December 13, December 13, 1946. December 13, 1946. PM Nehru. What he did? He introduced what? Objectives resolution. What is objectives resolution? It is a framework. What is objectives resolution? It is actually a document that was moved by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And this objective resolution contains what? Core philosophy of the constitution. Now listen to me. While introducing this objectives resolution, what Pandit Nehru did, he gave a speech. And in the very speech, what Nehru did, he said that if we are erecting a building, but before erecting a building, we should have a vision. How the building should look like. We should have a vision about the rooms. So when we have vision, then we can be in a position to erect that building by using that vision, and then we would come to know which brick has to be placed where. In the same way, when it comes to this objectives resolution, makers of the constitution said, Constituent Assembly started its work, but before framing its constitution, the makers of the constitution should have vision. Yes or no? They should have a vision. Vision of what? To frame the constitution. And this constitution should have a purpose. And what to be included in this constitution? That was already reflected in objectives resolution. For example, objectives resolution contains India shall be what? India shall be based on justice. It shall be based on liberty, equality, fraternity. And it should work for those who are marginalized. There shall be benefits for those who are weakest link in the society. India shall be sovereign and democratic. So this was the objectives resolution because it provided objectives to the makers of the constitution that this is the vision. And this vision shall guide you. Objectives resolution shall guide you. You are going to frame constitution. आप कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बना रहे हो, लेकिन बनाने से पहले आपके पास एक आइडिया होना चाहिए ना. वो जो आइडिया है that was reflected in what we call objectives resolution. But listen carefully, objectives resolution is not preamble. Most people confuse objectives resolution with preamble. But this is not the case. Objectives resolution is different. Preamble is different. Objectives resolution was introduced by Nehru. Nehru had vision in his mind. It was different document, and preamble is different document. Preamble was prepared by the drafting committee. All the objective resolution was introduced in December 13, 1946. But preamble was the last item to be included in the constitution, to be added to the constitution. And when it comes to this objectives resolution, this objective resolution was introduced by Nehru by December 13, 1946. And what Constituent Assembly did? Constituent Assembly unanimously adopted it on Jan 22, 1947. So when it comes to objectives resolution is what? It provided vision to the makers of the constitution. Objective resolution is what? It contains core philosophy on which the constitution is based. But objective resolution is not preamble. Yes, preamble is based on objective resolution, but objective resolution is not preamble. Instead, what? Preamble was the last item to be included, to be added to the Constitution of India. And when it comes to this enactment by the Constituent Assembly, ये मैंने अभी भी बताया आपको कि यहां पे जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन पास हो गया तो उसके बाद ही हमने क्या किया? उसके बाद ही हमने प्रीएम्बल को यहां पे ऐड किया. आर यू गेटिंग मी? बट लिसन टू मी कि जो कॉन्सेप्ट है ना, एक्चुअली USA was the first country. USA was the first country जिसने पहली बार अपने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के साथ एक चीज मिलाई, and that is preamble. To cut long story short, the concept of starting a constitution with a preamble was originally adopted from the American Constitution. USA Constitution एक ऐसा पहला कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन था जिसमें हमने क्या देखा? प्रीएम्बल देखा. लेकिन यूएसए से इंस्पायर होके हमने क्या किया कि वी बोरोड द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ प्रीएम्बल. कहां से लाया? American Constitution means when we looked on American Constitution, then we borrowed a concept of preamble and added to our Constitution. So, long story short, when it comes to this preamble, it serves as moral, political, and religious roadmap for the Constitution. Now, preamble क्या है? Preamble एक introductory part of the Constitution है. Preamble preface of the Constitution है. Preamble identity card of the Constitution है. Preamble philosophy of the Constitution है. क्यों? क्योंकि preamble में ही वो सारे goals, ideals, aims reflect हुए हैं जो Constitution के जरिए हमने achieve करने हैं. Now, based on the whole preamble from we the people of India, our preamble gets started. To its end, we come to know there are four core ingredients or four themes that summarizes the entire preamble. The first theme is source. When we read preamble, we read we the people of India. What does it indicate? What do we mean by we the people of India? It means the ultimate sovereignty, the ultimate authority lies in the hands of not a king, not a monarch, not an aristocrat, not a parliament, not a president, not a prime minister, not a bureaucracy. But when you read preamble, there is we the people of India, the beginning lines, we the people of India. It refers the ultimate authority rests in the hands of the people. It is actually people who decide the governments. The Constitution is gift by the people to themselves. It is a gift by the people to themselves. Meaning, when we say we the people, what does it indicate? It means the ultimate authority lies in the hands of people. It is not the king. It is not the oligarchy. It is not the monarchy. It is not the aristocrat. It is not the parliament who has ultimate authority, in whose hand the ultimate sovereignty rests. But it is actually what? We the people of India. Such a beautiful phrase. We the people of India. Meaning, it is we who gave the gift of the Constitution to ourselves. That's why our Constitution starts with we the people of India. Now, we are not going to be dictated by anybody. हम खुद अपना फैसला करेंगे. लोग खुद सोचेंगे कि देश को कैसे चलाना है. The people who decide who are going to rule us. The people who decide who are going to make policies and laws for us. The people who decide in whose hands the power shall be vested. So the second theme is nature. This is the second theme. Nature. When you read preamble, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republican polity with no external hand. Means we are sovereign. We will come to it later. We are socialist. India is secular. India is democratic. India is republican. When I say democratic, it means we are not monarchical system. There is no dictatorship. There is a beautiful democracy that lies in India. India is republic. Okay, we will come to it slightly later. The next theme is objectives of the Constitution. What are the objectives? I already discussed that the objectives of the Constitution, through Constitution, we want to bring social transformation. And for social transformation, there are certain objectives that we want to achieve. And when it comes to these objectives, it includes justice, it includes liberty, equality, fraternity for all Indian citizens. Means objectives are also reflected in the preamble. And the fourth theme is date of adoption and enactment. The last words in the preamble is do hereby, adopt and enact. So when it comes to preamble, in the preamble, it is said that our Constitution was adopted and enacted on when? November 26, 1949. For those who are preparing for UGC NET, those who are preparing for JKSSB exams, those who are preparing for PSC exams, they must remember that whenever such question is being asked, most students confuse that perhaps our Constitution was adopted and enacted on Jan 26, 1950. But this is not the case. Actually, our Constitution was adopted and enacted on when? November 26, 1949. But when it comes to the commencement of the Constitution, when it comes to the when the constitution came into force. That is 26th Jan. Sorry. 26th Jan 1950. So our constitution was adopted and enacted on November 26, 1949, but our constitution came into force on 26th Jan 1950. Why? Because of its historic importance. What was that historic importance? It was actually 1929. There was a session of Indian National Congress in Lahore, and it was this session where the fighters of freedom struggle decided that on 26th Jan 1930, we are going to celebrate Purna Swaraj. What is Purna Swaraj? Complete freedom. When I say complete freedom, it was actually a symbolic gesture at that time. So they decided that no, by 1930, and the date shall be Jan 26, we shall celebrate what? Purna Swaraj. And prior to it, what were the leaders demanding? They were demanding concessions in jobs. They were demanding what? Dominion status. But it was this historic session in Lahore when the freedom fighters, when our leaders decided that no, enough is enough. Now we are going to celebrate what? Purna Swaraj on 1930, and the date shall be Jan 26. And on the request of Nehru, when the makers of the constitution finished their constitution, when they ended their job on the request of Nehru, they gave this date a historic importance by putting commencement of the constitution on this date. So let's come to next slide. Now listen, this is your preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to its citizens justice, social, economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of nation, in our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. This is your preamble, and this is a beautiful document that was the last item to be added to the Constitution, so that this preamble could be in line with the other parts of the Constitution. Now let's come to the first theme, that is what we the people of India. I already discussed it with you, simplified it. We the people of India means the ultimate authority rests with the people. It's the gift given by people to themselves. We, the people of India, we are so powerful. Ultimate authority rests with us. That is why our beautiful constitution starts with beautiful words. We, the people of India. So when it comes to the nature of Indian state, the first thing is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic. Now listen, just have a look on this preamble. There is sovereign, there is socialist, there is secular, there is democratic, there is republic. And there is one thing you can notice. Do you notice that there is no punctuation mark on it? Why? Did they forget? No, that's not the case. Actually, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic without any punctuation mark, it indicates what? That is a big promise, one big promise. And it conveys the sense of what? Composite expression. Composite expression. So composite of expression, in what sense? Composite expression simply refers one big promise. One big promise means we cannot separate socialist from sovereign. We cannot separate secular from socialist. We cannot separate democratic from secular. We cannot separate republic from democratic. This is what we call composite expression, and it indicates one single big promise. Now let's come to sovereign and socialist principles of our constitution reflected in the preamble. The first thing is absolute independence. What do you mean by sovereignty? Sovereignty implies India is not a dominion or dependent on any external nation. It is free to manage its own affairs. Means we are sovereign. In what sense? If USA would pressurize us that you cannot import oil from Russia, should we accept that? The answer is no. Why? Because we are sovereign. When I say we are sovereign, it means we are not dependency. It means we are not dominion of any other state. And we cannot run on the dictates and terms of the other state. आपको समझ में आ रहा है? यानी कि sovereignty in what sense? Sovereignty in we are free to manage our own affairs. We are free to make our own laws. We are free to do what? We are free to make laws according to our pleasure. And we cannot act on the dictates of any other country. This is sovereignty. And this India enjoys absolute independence in all these cases. And two, as a sovereign power, India can either acquire foreign territory or cede a part of its own territory to a foreign state. Means what? Means India wishes it can acquire what? It has the capability to acquire any foreign territory. It has the capacity to cede a part of its own territory to a foreign state like Bangladesh. And the third thing is, that is democratic socialism. This is not communist state socialism. India actually, when it comes to democratic socialism, it actually conveys the meaning of what? We have our own brand of socialism. It provides for mixed economy model, where public and private sector would coexist. This is one meaning of democratic socialism. Democratic socialism does not only provide it, but it also aims what? To eliminate poverty, to eliminate ignorance, to eliminate disease, to end inequality of opportunity. And you can find these principles that aims to achieve the goal of socialism. You will find such principles in the provision of directive principles of state policy. Long story short, India is sovereign in the sense it has the right to manage its own affairs. India is sovereign in the sense it has the right to make its own laws. India is sovereign in the sense because what? It cannot act on the dictates of any foreign country. And India is a socialist state. In what sense? Because we have our own brand of socialism. In the sense, we always try to minimize the gap between the rich and the poor. We provide mixed economy where private and public sector would coexist. We work for the eradication of the disease. We work for the eradication of the poverty. And when it comes to democratic socialism, you would find provisions in line with the democratic socialism in what part? Fourth. And that part fourth is what? Directive principles of state policy. So let's come to, there is one thing, that is this socialist. This word has been added to the Constitution by Section 2nd of 42nd Amendment Act 1976. Now, there is secular and democratic mandates. Means the nature of our state is also secular and it's also democratic. It is also secular, and when I say secular, we have our own brand of secularism. The first thing that you need to keep in mind, those who are preparing for UGC NET must remember that this word, it has been added to our Constitution by 42nd Amendment Act in 1976. But remember, sometimes you shall be asking a question, which section of 42nd Amendment Act in 1976 made amendment and added socialist, secular and integrity? It is actually Section 2nd. It is actually Section 2nd of 42nd Amendment Act of 1976. During Indira Gandhi government, it was 1976. There was emergency and Parliament passed a law. That law was 42nd Amendment Act of 1976 and brought so many amendments. But there was Section 2nd of 42nd Amendment Act that not only brought changes in the Constitution but also changed the nature of Indian polity. And when it comes to this brand of secular, India is a secular state because it provides equal respect to all religions. Unlike theocratic Pakistan, unlike theocratic Bangladesh, unlike Myanmar, which is having Buddhism as state religion, we don't have any state religion. Our beautiful Constitution provides equal respect for all the religions. And prior to 1976, when secular word has been added to the Constitution, religious freedoms were there under Article 25, 26, 27, 28, and we shall discuss all these things in the chapter of fundamental rights. But still, you should remember that prior to 42nd Constitution Amendment Act 1976, our India was having secular nature because such articles were found in the Constitution like Article 25, 26, 27, 28 that provided religious freedom to its citizens. So core tenets of religious freedom, it's already discussed. And all religions enjoy equal status, respect, protection, support. We discussed all these things. And the next thing is democracy. Democracy is what? India is a democratic state. When I say democracy, it means we have the people, and the people are vested with the ultimate authority. People decides who is going to rule us. People decides who are going to make policies and laws for us. For being a democratic state, after every 5 years, elections are held. People go and vote, choose its government, and that government works for 5 years. If government would work in line with the interests of the people, well and good. If not, after 5 years, there is possibility people may choose another government. So this is the beautiful nature of our state, that is Indian state is having democracy. When I say democracy, that sovereignty rests with the people. Even when we discuss it, that we the people, it indicates the fact that we the people shows what? It shows the ultimate authority. The ultimate sovereignty lies with the people. And India is having what? Representative parliamentary democracy. While the executive is responsible to what? Legislature. Okay? And so we are not having only political democracy. We are also having social democracy. We are having economic democracy. We are having political democracy. So it's not democracy in one aspect, but democracy in all the aspects. And a big thing is, and best thing is, there is one thing that is adult franchise. The right to vote is given to every citizen, irrespective of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, descent. There are periodic elections. We discussed after every 5 years, elections are held. People go and vote and choose its government, and that very government go to legislative assemblies, goes to parliament, and make law in line with the interests of the people and fulfill the aspirations of the people. There is rule of law. Everybody is equal before law, and nobody is above the law. In many states there is rule by law. When I say rule by law is being used as an instrument by the king to maintain law, to maintain decorum in the state. But in India, there is rule of law. When I say rule of law, from prime minister to peon, everybody is equal. This is the beauty of the constitution, which establishes rule of law. And best thing is we have independent judiciary. We have independent judiciary. So when it comes to independent judiciary, judiciary does not act on the dictates of any other body. It works at its own and it takes decisions independently. So let's come to next slide. Republic. Republic is also sovereignty of the people. Unlike UK, in UK, there is hereditary head of the state. But when it comes to India, in India, head of the state is elected. It is not based on hereditary system. Head of the state is elected indirectly for a fixed of 5 years rather than inheriting a crown. Take the instance of United Kingdom. What is happening there? In United Kingdom, there is a crown, there is a queen, and queen is based on what? Hereditary. She is not elected, but unlike that United Kingdom, we have elected executive that is part of republican system. No hereditary monarch. You got the meaning? Differs from Britain, why head of the state is hereditary monarch. In Britain, head of the state is what? He is hereditary monarch. He is not neither directly elected nor indirectly elected. And this establishes true democratic equality. And there is another meaning that is being conveyed by republic, that is popular sovereignty. Political sovereignty vests with the collective people of India rather than individual or class. Popular sovereignty, ultimate sovereignty. We the people of India. We the people of India simply means it conveys the sense of republic. We are a republican state. When I say republican, ultimate authority rests with the people. It is not vested in the hands of king. It's not vested in the hands of parliament. It's not vested in the hands of any dictator or monarch. But it's actually the people who are vested with ultimate authority. And republic also conveys the sense that all public offices are open to every citizen. All public offices. There's equality of opportunity. Article 16, remember that. There should be no discrimination when it comes to public offices. Everybody can join the public offices, provides he comes out of the merit. And equality of opportunity is provided to each and everyone, irrespective of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. And the last one is rule of law. Rule of law means what? Every public authority, including head of state, is subjected to supreme law. This is the beauty of Indian democracy. This is the beauty. Means, be it head of the state and be it a common citizen, all are subjected to the same law. That is law of a nation. That is Constitution of India. Rule of law. Means equality. It provides equality before law. It provides that law shall be equally applicable to everyone. And it also provides equal protection of laws. And you can find rule of law in Article 14. So let's come to another slide. Now listen, there are 3 dimensions of justice. Let's come to the goals and objectives of the Constitution. The first thing is justice. It is an objective reflected in why? It is reflected in preamble. And justice not in social sphere only, justice in economic sphere, justice in political sphere. Social justice means in the society, there shall be no discrimination. Everybody is equal on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. Economic justice means the state needs to what? Needs to minimize what? Inequalities in terms of wealth. There should not be a huge gap between rich and the poor. Even it provides that every citizen or every individual should have right to educate livelihood. So justice is not limited to only social justice. Economic justice is also there, and there is also political justice. Political justice means there should be fairness. Fairness in what? When it comes to participating in political affairs, every citizen should have the right to participate. Every citizen should have the right to contest elections. Every citizen should have the right to contest elections. Every citizen should have the right to vote. Every citizen should have the right to become MLA or MP. Every citizen has the right to become head of the state or head of what? Head of the state or head of the government. That's Prime Minister. You can become CM. Why? It is because this is political justice. Political justice is what? Equal political rights, equal access to political offices, equal voice in governance. Nobody shall be discriminated when it comes to participation in the political affairs on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. So, long story short, there are three kinds of justice which are reflected in the preamble and the constitution. Through constitution, we want to achieve these goals, that is social justice, economic justice, and political justice. But when it comes to distributive justice, it's actually synthesis of social and economic justice. And we need not to go deep in the distributive justice. So let's come to, and listen, be it social justice, economic justice, and political justice. Ideals of social, economic, and political justice, इसको हमने Russian Revolution से borrow किया था. We borrowed this idea, social, economic, and political justice. We borrowed this idea from a revolution, Bolshevik Revolution, Russian Revolution, that was happening in 1970. And there is another liberty, equality, fraternity. And it's one of the same thing, liberty of thought, expression, absence of arbitrary restraints on individual actions, secure freedom of thought. So our preamble reflects ideal. That is what? That is liberty of thought. That is liberty of thought, belief, faith, virtue. We already discussed it, now we need not to discuss it again. Liberty is not absolute but qualified. It must be exercised according to the limitation of the. You have the liberty of what? You have freedom of religion. You have freedom of speech and expression. You have freedom to assemble peacefully. And you have freedom of thought. And in Constitution, there are a number of provisions which provides what? Which establishes India and why the people shall enjoy what? Liberty. Be it Article 19, be it Article 20, Article 25, 26, etc., etc. And there is another thing, that is, there are three dimensions of equality. Equality be civic, political, economic equality. It is one of the same thing, be it society, be it polity, be it economy, in each and every aspect. In each and every aspect, what the Constitution do? It provides equality. When I say political equality, all citizens are equal when it comes to the participation of what? Political affairs. When it comes to social equality, it means in the society everybody is same. When it comes to economic equality, it means every person living in the society has right to educate, livelihood, and there should not be a huge gap between rich and poor, and state needs to provide economic security to all citizens irrespective of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. Now, there comes fraternity. There is one thing in the preamble, that is, preamble also reflects the idea of fraternity. Means भाईचारा कहाँ कायम होता है? You know, irrespective of our religions, irrespective of having different cultures, irrespective of having different ways of life, still we have a single citizenship. We are Indian. And this idea conveys the sense of what? That is fraternity. Now listen, these three words, liberty, equality, and fraternity, we borrowed these words from French Revolution 1789. Social, economic justice, these words has been borrowed from Russian Revolution 1917. But when it comes to the idea of liberty, equality, and fraternity, we borrowed these ideas from what? French Revolution 1789. There was a member of drafting committee, K.M. Munshi. K.M. Munshi का कहना है कि preamble जो है ना, ये horoscope of our sovereign democratic republic है. यानी कि preamble is horoscope. When I say preamble is horoscope, it means preamble actually providing the ultimate destination of India. Preamble deciding what is the ultimate destination of our constitution. The ultimate destination is what? Our state should be sovereign, democratic republic based on justice, social, economic, political, liberty, fraternity. And this is K.M. Munshi. Sometimes question may be asked, maybe ask it to you that preamble is the horoscope of our sovereign democratic republic. Who said? The answer is K.M. Munshi. And who was K.M. Munshi? He was actually member of drafting committee. K.M. Munshi एक member थे drafting committee के. वो कहते हैं कि preamble दरअसल एक horoscope of our sovereign democratic and republic. Horoscope. जो horoscope पढ़कर हम individual की destiny देखते हैं, individual का मुकद्दर देखते हैं. उसी तरीके से preamble को पढ़कर हमें समझ में आ जाएगा कि what is the ultimate destination of India. Sir Ernest Barker, he said preamble is keynote to the constitution due to its comprehensive and concise nature. Means that very thing. Transformative vision. Constitution is what? Instrument of transformation. And this transformative vision has been captured in the preamble in a very concise way. So what is preamble according to Sir Ernest Barker? Preamble is actually central idea. It is actually central idea of the constitution. It's the main idea of the constitution. It reflects the ideals. It reflects the goals of the constitution. And there is another constitution expert, N.A. Palkhewala, and we discussed it. According to him, preamble is the identity card of the constitution. आप रास्ते में चल रहे हैं, मैंने आपसे आपका आइडेंटिटी कार्ड मांगा. जब मैंने उस आइडेंटिटी कार्ड को पढ़ा तो मुझे समझ में आया आपका नाम क्या है, आप कहाँ रहते हो, आप कौन सा काम करते हो. Meaning this identity card introduces you to me. So this identity card, preamble is called the identity card of the constitution. Meaning it is actually this identity card which introduces constitution to us. What the constitution is all about. That is why N.A. Palkhewala used a beautiful term. That is identity card of the constitution. And there is another constitution expert, Thakur Das Bhargava, and he said that constitution preamble is the precious part. It is the soul. It is the jewel set of the constitution. It is soul. Because preamble is actually a thing that provided vision to the constitution. Preamble reflects the ideals and goals which the constitution want to achieve. And that is why Thakur Das Bhargava said, preamble क्या है? ये precious part है. Preamble क्या है? ये jewel set of the constitution है. Meaning we cannot think of constitution without having what? Preamble. There is another constitution expert, Hidayatullah, Justice Hidayatullah, who was Chief Justice. उसने कहा कि preamble is actually it resembles what? U.S. Declaration of Independence, but acts as the soul of our polity. Such a beautiful comments given by our constitutional experts, be it Ernest Barker, be it K.M. Munshi, be it Thakur Das Bhargava, be it Hidayatullah, be it N.A. Palkhewala. Such questions are asked in the exams, in competitive, be it UG Senior, be it JKSSB, be it JKPSC, be it UPSC. Yeah, who said what? So you must take note of all these things, and there is possibility you may be asked such questions. Now there are some landmark cases. So whether preamble is part of the constitution or not. Now listen, in the Bureau Union case, the Supreme Court said preamble is key to the minds of the makers of the constitution. Preamble, if you find in the constitution that there are some ambiguous words, there are some words which are not having clarity, you may take some assistance from preamble. But despite giving such importance to the preamble, the Supreme Court straightforwardly said preamble is not part of the constitution. So in the Bureau Union case, the answer is no. Preamble is not part of the constitution. But after 13 years, in the Keshwananda Bhartiya case, 1973, there was 13 judges bench. And in this case, the Supreme Court said, yes, preamble is part of the constitution. Preamble is, in this landmark ruling, the Supreme Court rejected its earlier statements, declaring that preamble is an integral part of the constitution. In 1960, preamble was not part of the constitution. But all of a sudden in 1973, in the Keshwananda Bhartiya case, was the state of Kerala, the Supreme Court said preamble is an integral part of the constitution. What is the reason? Actually, there is a story. In 1960, the story was not narrated, how preamble became part of the constitution. But in 1973, in the Supreme Court, the story was there, the story was narrated. And what was the story? Listen. Our Constituent Assembly, what it did, for example, right to equality was thoroughly discussed, it was debated, it was voted upon, and it became part of the constitution. Equality of opportunity, it was discussed, debated, and became voted upon and became part of constitution. And on the similar lines, preamble was also debated, it was also discussed threadbare, and voted upon, and then it became part of constitution. This story was not told to Supreme Court in 1960. Actually, this story was told to Supreme Court in in 1973. How the preamble is part of Indian Constitution, because as other provisions were debated, discussed, voted upon, and it became part of Indian Constitution. So on the similar grounds, preamble was also debated, discussed, and in this way, it became part of Indian Constitution. That's why, after hearing the story, Keshavananda Bhartiya case, State of Kerala, 1973, in the landmark judgment, the Supreme Court said, yes, preamble is part of, not part, integral part of the Constitution. Again, in LIC of India case, 1995, Supreme Court once again reaffirmed that preamble is an intrinsic part of Indian Constitution. The court noted that preamble was debated, voted, and passed by the Assembly, just like any other chapter. We discussed it already. So, but listen. Preamble is not source of power for the parliament. And number two, that you need to keep in mind, that preamble is not enforceable in the court of. You cannot go to court and tell the court that, sir, preamble is not enforceable. Preamble is not being enforced. Suppose your fundamental right has been violated. You have the right to approach to Supreme Court and get it restored. But when it comes to preamble, if preamble is not enforced, you have no right to move to Supreme Court, because preamble itself is not enforceable in the court of law. So it yields no legislative power to the parliament, nor does it place any absolute restrictions on the existing law. But then what is the fun of having preamble? It provides vision, and while you feel the terms are ambiguous, terms are not clear, you may take assistance from what? You may take assistance from the preamble. So there are some concepts, some legal provisions, some core implications for aspirants that you need to keep in mind. One, can we amend preamble? Can Parliament has the power to amend preamble? In the Birubiri unit case, the answer is no. As preamble is not part of the Constitution, then how can you amend preamble? So Birubiri union case में Supreme Court ने directly कहा preamble Constitution का part नहीं है, इसलिए आप इसको amend नहीं कर सकते. But when it comes to Keshavananda Bhartiya case, 1973, उसमें ये कहा गया, yes, preamble is part of the Constitution and Parliament has the power to amend the Constitution and preamble. लेकिन ख्याल रखना है कि आर्टिकल 368 का इस्तेमाल कर सकता है ना? पार्लियामेंट आर्टिकल 368 का इस्तेमाल करके कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन और प्रेम्बल को अमेंड कर सकता है. लेकिन ख्याल क्या रखना है, केशवानंद भारतीय केस में एक डॉक्ट्रिन आया जिसको हम कहते हैं डॉक्ट्रिन ऑफ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर. लेकिन ख्याल रहे कि प्रिएम्बल जो है, प्रिएम्बल में या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में बहुत सारे ऐसे प्रोविजंस है which comes under the category of basic features, or which is commonly known as basic structure in the Constitution, and Parliament cannot alter, Parliament cannot change, Parliament cannot modify those basic structures. And when it comes to preamble, be it objectives, be it nature, it comes under the purview of basic structure. It means Parliament cannot modify, Parliament cannot change, Parliament cannot alter the preamble. Yes, what Parliament can do, it can enrich it. It can bring new positive words in the preamble, but it cannot do what? It cannot delete secular, it cannot delete socialism, it cannot delete democracy, but because be it objectives, be it nature of the state, it comes under the purview of what? Basic structure. Parliament has, long story short, Parliament has the power to change, to modify, to alter the provisions of the Constitution, but it cannot touch what? Basic structure. It means in the preamble, whatever is written, it comes under the category of basic structure, and it hasn't any power to modify, alter, or change it, but it can bring new positive concepts, positive words, and add to the preamble to enrich it. And there's socialist, secular, integrity. We discussed it. It was added to the Constitution by 42nd Amendment Act 1976. It was just to enrich the original philosophical vision. And when it comes to judicial validity, that is upheld by the additions were declared legally valid and part of basic constitution validity. There is a socialism, secular. It actually talks about socialist, secular, and integrity. These words has been added to the Constitution, to the preamble, just to enrich it. Okay, so ultimate sovereignty. There are some high yield exam checklists. You must remember it. Ultimate sovereignty. We discussed the people of India, and there is thematic sequence. We discussed that there's composite expression: sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and there is no comma. It's actually my mistake. 42nd Amendment Act. 3 words has been added: that is socialist, secular, and integrity. And it is not legally enforceable. We discussed it. It is non-justiciable. It means preamble by itself is not enforceable. You cannot go to court and tell the court that, sir, preamble is not enforced by the Parliament or State Legislative Assembly. So court कहेगा कि ये मेरा काम नहीं है. Preamble is non-justiciable. When I say non-justiciable, it means you cannot approach to court for its enforcement. Yes, you can make the use of preamble where you feel the terms are unambiguous, why the terms are unclear. Now there is a question: which of the following describes the correct sequence of the words as mentioned in the preamble of the Indian Constitution? Sovereign, socialist, secular, sovereign, socialist, democratic, republic, secular, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic, sovereign, secular, socialist, democratic, republic, socialist, secular, sovereign, democratic, and republic. Just when it comes to answer, let me know in the comment sections. This is all you need to know about the preamble. Thank you. Have a good day.